The secret sauce to improving your aerobic conditioning that no one's really talking about. Let's say two athletes, two twins, same genetic makeup, same everything. They do the same conditioning program. One sees better results than the other. How in the world would that be possible? And the reason is very, very simply. One understands the value of pacing and gears, different stimuluses for different workouts, and the other does not. One athlete just goes out as hard as they can every time. The other one understands that there's levels of intentional intensities that will maximize their gains. Here's what this looks like. If you have a graph mapped out where you have pace, this could be per 500 meter row on a rower. It could be watts. It could be minutes per mile, any sort of pace metric. On the x-axis, you have time in minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to maybe an hour long. What we have to understand is this first thing called your lactic threshold. Your lactic threshold is your maximal sustainable pace. So let's say that is, if this is your peak power output, the most, your 10-meter sprint, the highest amount of wattage you could pull on a rower, what's the amount of, at the fastest that you could possibly go on a bike. It is the fastest that you could possibly go. We know that you could probably only sustain that for a very, very short period of time. So what is that maximal sustainable? In the world of exercise science, we call that your lactic threshold. It is a pace that you could hold for about an hour. So 20 to 40 minutes is that sweet spot for lactic threshold. That's going to be somewhere around here. If we're doing a lactic threshold workout, we have athlete 1, the one that understands intentional levels of intensity, and we have athlete 2 who does not, who just goes out as hard as they possibly can. Let's take that second athlete first. The one who goes out as hard as they possibly can and just tries to hold on. When they do that, they're coming out as hard as they can, and over time, they're just going to slowly get slower and slower and slower and slower throughout that workout. What this athlete is doing is busting it up. How fast can I go? And they're slowly just dying. They're not spending much time at or around their lactic threshold. They're only spending about this much time at or around their lactic threshold, a little bit above, a little bit below. Let's take athlete 2, who starts off much slower. They start out just ever so slightly above their lactic threshold. At about the 1 minute mark, they found it and they sort of undulate right around their lactic threshold and they hold this. Maybe at the end of the workout, they have a little kick to the end and their pace looks like that. This athlete will reap better benefits. Not only have they spent more time at or around their lactic threshold, he or she who spends the most time at threshold will see the biggest gains. So not only that, will they improve their performance, their gains will be higher than athlete 2. Not only that, it is not as painful. So the pain cave goes down. This athlete is working so hard and then struggle busing for the entire thing. Because this athlete is working so hard and struggle busing towards the end, not only is it more painful, not only do they not get as the same gains, but their recovery is going to take longer. So their recovery goes down because they've spent more time building that huge deficit. The last one is not only does these things happen, if these two athletes were to go head to head, say in a 5K row or a 10K run, this athlete here, athlete 1, will outperform, meaning they will get a better score. So their actual score and times get better in the workout as well. We need to recognize that that is not only the case for lactic threshold. It is also the case for higher intensity efforts like VO2 max, which might be up here. We want VO2 max to be across. It is also the effort for zone 2 work, which would be somewhere down here. We want zone 2 work to be paced as well. The punchline to this is we have to understand rate of perceived exertions. Each one has one that's associated with it. Zone 2 work on a scale of 1 to 10 is going to feel very easy for the first half. Maybe only a 2 or a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10 for RPE, rate of perceived exertion. Your lactic threshold work, I'll do these out. Zone 2, lactic threshold, VO2 max. Your lactic threshold is going to be somewhere around a 5 or 6 rate of perceived exertion for the first half. The back half of any lactic threshold workout is going to be challenging, but the first half should not feel that. It should be about 50% of your max effort. And then for VO2 max, this is going to be a 7 or an 8 on the rate of perceived exertion. This would be something like a Norwegian 4x4, 4 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 4 rounds. Lactic threshold might be something like 3x2K row with a 2-minute rest in between. And then your zone 2 might be something like a 60 or a 90-minute at a low effort continuous pace. When you start to build these things together, and by the way, these work not just for single modality, but they can also work for workouts that we do in the gym with burpees and kettlebell swings. When we start to understand the intentional levels of intensity, the associated rate of perceived exertion that goes with each one, then we start to realize why some athletes are seeing bigger gains aerobically than other athletes following the same program. It's a matter of checking your ego and going slower for the first half of the workout. It's not going to feel as challenging, but it allows you to maintain your pace throughout or even ever so slightly pick it up towards the end. This is the telltale of whether you're training with intentional levels of intensity. Do you have the same pace every single round? World records on every track and field event held over a few minutes are all done with negative splits. That's not a mistake. These athletes understand the need for pacing and starting slower so it's maintained throughout. Try to turn yourself away from the crash and burn athlete into the steady athlete that understands how to make true gains.